It's know-how siege.
Let's get it. Yet another segment of Know-How Siege. Last time I did Florist, this time I get to do Bank. And the reason I'm so heavily excited is I was a little worried Bank might be the old stale Bank from all the way back in the day. Turns out teams are using brand new operators, new setups in more innovative ways. And as a result, I'm gonna bring you guys a setup from almost every single EUL team that played Bank on almost every single site. If you want to take these strats into ranked, because let's not forget, Bank has been added to the ranked rotation as well. And if you are the one that keeps permabanning it, well, stop. I've got strats for you to use. Here we go. Let's start off with BDS downstairs in Vault. This one is my favorite. Why? Well, if you could have a look at all the open holes, do zoom up where you can. And it looks like they'll be having a double mirror set. You've got the initial mirror over towards the B site, and they play a Tachanka deep all the way into that initial site, and they shoot those Shumika launches all the way over to the default plant in CCTV. This one is my favorite by far. Why? Well, I mean, the double mirrors redundancy, is just a plethora there, but using Tachanka in a really creative way on a site that not a lot of other players do, they'll often bring the smoke instead. That one's my favorite. I'm not sure if you're going to agree as we go through them fresh, but that one has to be the most creative.
Yeah, I love it, and I love Tachanka play.
Yes.
Just the skill ceiling that Tachanka's got, a great Tachanka can just burn so much time because there's so much ammo.
There you go.
That is actually a very good thing that you highlight. Having so much more ammo, especially added recently, kind of gives you even more flexibility. Yeah. This is just a different take on an old school setup.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what you expect. You change a bit in the map, but there's a lot of new things that happen in the game that you can adapt in.
Well, that's assuming they do a server push, of course, so there is ways to get around that. However, let's go and have a look at exactly what other teams... Let's bring up Kavana. Let's see what their downstairs strategy is. And you're thinking to yourself, hang on, this isn't downstairs, Jess. Well, that's because Kavana loves to take over the entire map for this strategy. They'll open up the hatches. They'll do staff control. They'll do open control. They'll do archives control. They will open up every single sort of hatch to be able to rotate back if the teams decide to rush in on them. So if you like to have a little bit of freedom of movement around the map, maybe the Kavana strategy is for you. So that's their setup. Highlighted in red is the power positions they like to hold on defense. And of course, those hatches opened up over the site to be able to rotate back when they need to. But next in line is Empire, the oh-so-reliable Empire. What do? Well, they actually have a dual setup in the bottom floor. Have a little bit of a look at the fact that they like to put a rotate, not in the usual spot, between bomb site of A, or rather B, towards red, that little area where that shield is circled there. They actually move it closer over towards the garage. Why? Because if anyone peeks them from server, no one can shoot them as they rotate into red. It's a much safer way of doing it, especially if that shield in red that is blocking the rotate gets destroyed. So I love this. They've got the garage angle as well, but they double down and they do a blue and server hold. I mean, Empire is everywhere all over the bottom floor. Kavana likes to roam, Empire likes to hold the site. I like this one as well. Both have, their strengths and weaknesses, and I think it's good, but let's compare it to our last team here, or not even our last team. I actually have every team playing the bottom floor. It is the most popular site. The next one in line is G2. Let's see what they have to show, and don't judge G2, a book by...
Big hole, bro!
Yes, correct. Look at those humongous holes that the smoke has had to make in the wall. Mind you, he's the only one with a shotgun on their lineup here. They have made humongous holes in the wall. Why? Well, they do a bit of a roam strategy alike to Kavana, and they like to have the huge lines of sight to play deep into sight, or conversely, if the team pushes us through Vault or maybe through Elevator, they have redundancy no matter which way the push comes from. Is a little risky though, because that opens up the site for those ACOGs on attack, which we know they're going to bring. However, let's have a look at Navi's. They have been one to try out a few things themselves. They've changed it up a little bit as well. This is an Empire-esque, I'm going to call it, a little bit similar to the way that Empire like to hold the bottom floor. They'll put a mirror over in red, as you would usually see if mirror is not banned. But then instead of placing the smoke behind that mirror, they place him all the way forward inside of servers with an ADS, a shield, and they have someone assisting him to be able to hold on to server for as long as possible. So if he dies in that spot, there's not a lot of plant denial left over when those smokes go down. So it's a very forward-facing defense, which means teams can't get into that power position they need to even get to the site. Assuming, again, that they push servers. Let's not forget there's another way to push if you want. And our last one in this entire bottom floor setup is Vitality. Let's see what their setup is, and I like it because Vitality has decided what kind of angles, what kind of redundancy plan do I have if I lose red control, for example, if they open up the long angle in server. Well, they have all of these separate angles, and they do a blue hold with a clash, with a warden. I mean, they have everything going for them. I love it. French teams do this a lot with clash. Not so much the warden, but that's what you can do, because when Bank used to exist, the bottom floor hold with the blue hold, you didn't have a warden to play with. You would get flashed, you would get grenaded. That's how people would deal with it. Now, well, they can bring in the warden, and that's what we've got. Not every team went to every other site. There were preference changes, and obviously the most popular is the bottom floor. The second in line used to be top floor, but that has since changed. Speaking of, a site that never used to be picked, and when I was a coach, only had 2 different strategies on it because we tried never to go there. It was not a popular one, is staff. Let's bring up BDS's staff hold here and have a look at what they like to do. Now, of course, there's a lot of circles on your screen because there's a lot of utility, rotates, shotgun holes here from BDS. We were speaking about Vitality's lines of sight, but it looks like for the side of BDS, a Surya gate over towards printer windows, sort of circled on the right-hand side of your screen, a shield to block the very long line of sight that comes with holding that particular angle, and then a rotate over into archives. There won't be a lot of top floor roams for teams that are holding onto a site like this. It seems to be the meta to hold on to that quad wall inside of kitchen, but that's BDS's very simplistic setup at the moment. And of course, some hatch opens either mid or early round as well over towards that little admin office. That is BDS's. How about Kavana though? What do they plan on doing? Well, it's almost a mirror image, isn't it? There's not much kind of versatility to this kind of site because you need archives control, so the rotate will exist for them as well. Shield this time moved deep into kitchen so that they have that push if it does come from lobby instead. So that's a nice little angle. It shields them from that angle, and they can peek over towards printer window if someone bolts on in. I like it, I like it. Also muted off quad wall. They don't want any openings there. What about the next though? Who's next in line? I believe Empire was the next to play this site as well, and oh my god, it's like nothing changes, does it? However, I will say very clearly, these mirror windows over towards quad are the biggest difference. You can now challenge onto square with those mirrors, and that's exactly what Empire wanted to do. Square is a power position, no doubt about it, so having those mirror windows there are one of my favorites for this hold. They also bring a castle to make sure if a lobby push does happen, no one pushes into tellers, no one takes the archives power position. They lock it off, a couple of reinforcements there, a rotate back into sight, and you're all Gucci. That is not the last team. The last team to hold on to that one was G2. Let's bring up their strategy here. They want kitchen. They want nothing but kitchen in their particular strategy. They fortify it 20-fold, even to the point where they have a multiple mirror setup for both pushes. When I said I liked the other strategy, this one is almost my favorite, but it puts a lot of reliance on one room. And their only saving grace is that there's no verticality. You can really get above that kitchen area because it's out on the terrace. It's all made of concrete. You can't shoot through it. So they're very lucky that they have that power position room. It would be unlucky though if they lost archives and someone came and planted in next to admin office door. That would be the sort of go around for that kind of strategy, assuming that the mirror was able to be held from above. Let's move to the least favored side, however, the next one in line. That is going to be CEO, and this one's even more difficult to understand because teams are realizing it's a very difficult site to hold. You can really only do a few default things, and those quad mirrors over towards that admin office, or rather that front desk area, they've decided to castle it, and that was an OG strategy back in the day. That is what you always had to do on Bank, no matter what, because of course the rappels in the front still exist, to the northern side especially, so that's the one you've got to be worried about, hence the castles. A rotating janitor, nice little feet holes if anyone jumps in stock, and maybe you can shoot their little footsies as they come jumping on in. Nothing out of the ordinary here for that particular hold, but Na'Vi, do they shake things up for us a little bit? Yes, they do. Haven't seen this one before play to this kind of, ferocity, and that kind of aggressive shield hold towards janitor and square is only possible if no one is able to jump into stock or open up Kanto, which is all the way down where the double walls exist near elevator. That is my problem with this, is that it's so aggressive. You've got to hope that everyone pushes square and no one comes up behind you, because it's all based off you having that power position around the shield. They've also got a couple of holes towards Janitor. There's a mirror setup being made towards Janitor as well. I haven't seen it set up quite like this before. So I'd say for the top floor, the most innovative we have from all of these teams so far is Na'Vi, but G2 tried as well. Let's see exactly what they've got going on. Well, looky here, when I called it Kanto next to Elevator, guess who decides they want to still hold it this many years on? Kanto made it his famous position back when he used to play on G2, and he was the dock main. He would play in this position and snipe everyone off the map. That's why they want to continue to hold that area, because they still believe to this day it is a power position. I'm going to have to agree with them. I like it. However, of course, you know, remembering there's Northern Repel still in there, even though there has been a remake, so a little careful of that. I like it, and of course I'm sure they open up that elevator hatch for a little bit of redundancy to get out of there should they need to. And they also put a couple of what they got, Syria gates over towards the default wall, etc., rotates from Janitor. All the default things are there, and that's exactly the top floor. The least liked, however. The second most liked, I'm going to put it on par with Staff, has been Tellers. The very last site we'll go to. Only 3 of the teams went there. Empire went there, and what they decided to do was hold onto Kitchen with a singular reinforcement and a singular mirror. So they said to themselves, well, it's important, but it's not important to put all of our reinforcements there. So we're going to hope whoever plays that mirror has the best vector aim on our team, and they do have very good mirror players, so it works out for them. They also open default line of sight from main stairs to default plant next to printer, and everything happens above the site for the most part, outside of this little setup in kitchen. The next team is Na'Vi, though. If you guys are interested in any of these strats, please do go back, screenshot them, share them with your friends, etc. The kind of Na'Vi we're seeing set up here is the kind of one I would have expected as well, with mirror in play. I do think mirror will be a crutch for a lot of these teams on this map, and if it is not in play, there will be a problem. Na'Vi will struggle with that as well, because you can see their kitchen reliance is 20-fold on almost every single setup that they have. So that's why that mirror placement over towards kitchen is one that they want as well. And of course, the default line of sight we saw on the previous strategy rotates towards those power positions. Nothing out of the ordinary there. But our last team, Vitality, did they shake it up for us here on this site? Nope. Not really. They kept it all default, because there's not much you can really change on this setup outside of maybe the top floor. Open up some line of sights into the small office from kitchen, looking through. Things are all looking pretty well the same. They have dedicated a few more reinforcements to open area, so it looks like that is the power position they want to play for the most part. But I am surprised to not see as much castle as we used to see from players, especially when you unlock off tellers, a lot of long lines of sight. That has been a complete run through of all of the strategies that we have seen from every single EUL team. I've broken it down, I've highlighted, I've drawn arrows, I've gone absolutely nuclear with the drawing tool in every way that I can. And if any of these strategies help you, trust me, I've gone up against a few different teams in my ranked games that have implemented some of these already into their team strats. So do it in ranked.